Hello everyone, welcome to our Let's Play series of Mass Effect. This is Colonel RPG as usual.
What do you want, Shepard?
And I'm very happy to have you here with me as we talk to Rex.
Why did you become a mercenary?
Lots of reasons.
Such as?
Such as, I needed to get out of our system. I needed to eat. I needed to survive.
Why not stay and help your people?
I tried to help. That's why I had to leave.
What happened?
I was betrayed. I was head of a small tribe. We were trying to restore order after the war, but the other tribes were against us. They followed Jared, one of the few warlords who survived the war with the Turians. But he was old, and so were his ideas. He wanted to continue the war. He wanted us to fight. Turians, Solarians, each other. It didn't matter who, as long as we were fighting.
What did you want?
I just wanted Jared to shut up, to stop his ranting. I wanted him to stop leading the tribes astray. But he couldn't understand how much things had changed. We didn't have the numbers to go to war. Even if we did, the genophage made sure we couldn't replenish our numbers fast enough. I told them all to forget about war. We needed to focus on breeding, at least for one generation. And for a while, we were getting through. Some of the tribes started coming around.
It's confirmed Rex is a sex machine. Although, probably not in as nice of terms because of it's complicated. Yeah. I've been trying, as he's talking here, and my options seem to be pretty sort of like unopinionated, which I like, because I think I can stretch my renegade legs, as it were, when I talk to Rex. Let's find out.
I take it the warlord didn't appreciate that.
No, he didn't. He arranged a crush with the tribes, a meeting on neutral ground. He wanted to talk. We met at the Hollows, near the graves of our ancestors. The skulls of our dead laid bare to remind us where we come from, and where we all go. It's as sacred as any Krogan place can be. Violence is forbidden.
Where they come from? They come from skulls? What could that line mean? Violence is forbidden. That's risky. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. But what could that mean? That you come, like, it's obviously a reference to From Dust to Dust, which I don't know where it comes from specifically. But it's very clearly not, like, it's idiomatic the way he says it, which means that he shouldn't have that tradition, because that's human stuff. From dust to dust, that's human stuff. Don't mess with that. Unless they, of course, come from skulls, or are born out of the ground, for all we know. Like the dwarves in The Lord of the Rings.
Sounds like a trap to me. You must have suspected as much.
I did. But when your father invites you to a crush, well, there are some laws that even we hold sacred.
Jared was your father?
He was. Until that day. We talked, but we didn't get anywhere. When it was clear that I wouldn't join him, he gave the signal. His men leapt from the graves of our ancestors like Krogan undead. The few that were loyal to me died quickly. I escaped with my life, but not before I sank my dagger deep into my father's chest. That is why I left, and that's why I'll never go back.
Are your people really dying?
We're sure not getting any stronger.
Didn't I ask this already?
We're too spread out. None of us are interested in staying in our own system.
So long, Rex.
Shepard.
Rex. So I did ask that. It's just that the line didn't. Yeah, his story didn't really have. I couldn't reply very much. Which is a shame. Now, Tally. Hey.
Shepard, I'm glad you're here.
Good to see you smiling again,
I mean,
so to speak.
yes.
I'm sleeping much better now. I guess I'm getting used to how quiet your ship is. I still think a lot about my pilgrimage, though. I know Steren's our top priority, but with all the worlds we go to, I was hoping to find something to bring back to the flotilla.
We've still got a long way to go. You'll find something to take back.
Yes, but it cannot just be some derelict ship my people can use for salvage. It has to be more than that. There's a lot expected of me.
What's so special about you?
It's my father. He's the senior member of the Admiralty Board. He's one of only 5 people who can overrule the decisions of the Conclave for the good of the migrant fleet. My father is responsible for the lives of 17 million people. Our entire race is in his hands, and I'm his only child.
I'm noticing a certain... I mean, it's coincidental that we talked to Rex and Tally in the same episode, right one after the other, and yeah, it's just like they're kids that are they're kids of the leaders, but that theme exists elsewhere as well. The parent, not just the theme of not just the theme of being, or rather, not at all the theme of being the child of an important person, but the theme of parentage. So Garrus' storyline is about his parents, or a little bit about his parents, and certainly how he was raised. Ashley's storyline is also about that. She talked to us about more recently as well about her family, in Rex as well. I'm trying to think about Caden. Caden hasn't talked about his parents, or did he? Maybe I'm forgetting that. But who else is? Oh yeah, and of course, yeah. Oh. What a weird thing. And of course, Liara. Liara is also, her storyline is also about her parents, specifically her mother, although we spent a lot of time talking about her other mother or father, or the other progenitor, as it were. But because we don't know who they are. Did she know? Did she tell? Either way, I don't think she does. The point is, unless Caden's storyline somehow isn't about his parents, all of these companions they have storylines about their parents, basically. A little bit, not about them. It's a theme. It's a thing that happens in their storylines. Your royalty. Mm-hmm. Let's go with that.
So are you some kind of heir to the Quarian throne or something?
No, it doesn't work that way. My father's position isn't hereditary. I'll probably never serve on the Admiralty Board myself. Officially, I'm just the same as any other citizen. But it doesn't work that way in practice. People have always treated me differently because of who my father is.
Yes, that is how it happens with basically any position of power. Literally any position of power. Also, it's a good thing. I asked, so your royalty is the line over here, and then she said no, but she said no specifically to the question that I asked, that she's an heir to the throne. That's not what being royalty means at all. You can be the child of a king and still not be the heir to the throne, because there are such a thing as kings that are not hereditary. And, well, more commonly there are counts and viscounts and other positions in royalty that are not hereditary. Although, depending on the time of history, those are less common than some other times, but either way, the hereditarianess, here, what's the word? There's a word for it. You know, the characteristic of being hereditary is, it changes a lot depending on the situation.
You must get all kinds of special privileges.
I probably had it easier than most growing up, but it's not all good. People like my father have enemies, and they're not above using me to get to him.
That must be tough on you.
My people place a high value on family and ancestry. There's an unspoken expectation that I'll live up to my father's example. Everyone's waiting for me to do something great on my pilgrimage, something that will forever change our lives for the better. If I don't, it's like I failed, and that reflects badly on both me and my father.
The work you're doing here is more important than anything any Quarian's ever done before.
Yes, I know.
That is such a terrible
I
line.
understand Quarian culture. We're a very insular society. The events beyond the flotilla don't much matter to the average citizen. Our greatest dream is that one day we'll return to our homeworld and drive out the Geth. But even if we stop Seren, that's not going to happen. There's still millions of Geth behind the veil. Until they're gone, our exile will continue.
what a terrible line. I am more important than any what, Quarian, any Quarren, she says. Not that's not what she said, obviously, but like, and also, it should have been rephrased into, if you save the galaxy with me, then you'll do something more important than any Quarian, which is also maybe not true, potentially, because you don't know if the Quarians didn't save the galaxy. It's a terrible line, but I like that her first line as an answer to that can be understood as her being deflecting and being like, yes, I know you're racist, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't understand our culture very much. That's why, which is the one way of looking at it. But it's a throwaway line. It doesn't matter. Yep.
What would you need to bring back to make everyone happy?
Something that would help us better understand the Geth. They've changed significantly since the exile. They've continued to evolve. We've done our best to study them, but it's not easy. They're very reclusive. Until recently, they never went beyond the borders of the Veil. And all the Geth we run into now are under Saren's control. We'd need to find Geth operating on their own, independently. But I don't want this to get in the way of our mission, Shepard. First, we stop Saren. Then I'll worry about my own problems.
I think we can ask about her father now.
What was your father like?
It wasn't easy growing up as the daughter of one of the Admiralty. Even before he joined the board, he was a prominent figure. People looked to him for leadership. He had to set an example, and he expected the same of his daughter. Plus, he was pretty strict, a military man through and through. He never allowed me to settle for anything less than excellence. As a kid, I sometimes felt like he was pushing me too hard. But now I'm old enough to appreciate what he taught me. The world doesn't owe us anything. If we want something in life, we have to earn it.
It's interesting that she says her military man through and through, and he's strict because of that. That's not how... That's a cultural thing, it's not a language thing. The military doesn't have to be strict, is what I mean to say. If she said, I don't know, I'm trying to think of... Like, because language, the distinction between language and culture can be pretty hazy, but like, when we're thinking about aliens and stuff, the logical conclusion to take from that particular line is that the military traditions of the Quarians are very similar to the European and American traditions of the military, and also Asian traditions. At least 20th century. I'm not actually sure. I'm not actually sure about how the military history of China, for example, goes before the 20th century. I'm trying to think of other Asian countries that I don't know enough to know that. But I do know that the military doesn't have to be strict, and in fact, it isn't. Historically speaking, a lot of military forces are. It depends on what time of it. It's time of history, and time and space is what history is all about. But there are some. Immediately it came to mind certain Greek or Hellenic city-states back 2,000 years before present, about 2,000 and more actually, that had the military be like nobility, and they weren't strict. The sort of strictness of the military already existed before the Romans, obviously, and of course we can't tell prehistoric or proto-historic cultures. We can't tell if they had strictness or not. But the Romans were sort of on the vanguard, as we see our European history and the precursors to our history. They were sort of on the vanguard of establishing military as a group of at least in related to the military being related to being, not stoicism is not the word, but you know what I mean. The sort of the stereotypes of just like, this military person over here is just like, this needs to be done properly, or I need to pay attention to this, or line of command and all this sort of stuff. And in fact, through medieval history, I hesitate to say if it is very far into the medieval era, but the military wasn't strict up until easily wasn't strict throughout many European countries up until the 10th century or the 11th century even, and after that, well, things get a little bit different. But I would think I'm trying to think of specifically the difficulty that people had training people doing to do their stuff, because a lot of the European military worked on the basis of levies, as I think is the word, where basically there were small communal training regiments where people would know how to do, fight, and then they basically would, they knew how to use a sword, or they knew how to use a spear more often, because swords, they're not as good as basically anything else, but they would know how to use a spear or an axe, and depending on where you are in Europe as well. I'm talking specifically European history, because the thing is, I'm talking specifically European history, because the moment you start to go outside of Europe, then you start to realize that, yes, the military isn't about being strict at all. It's just what you think, because you're in the United States in the 21st century. And, the United States Army is about being strict in comparison to a lot of other periods of history. It's not necessarily the be-all and all of strictness, in the sense of, like, that you can always go more strict, but, and even historically speaking, let alone just, thinking up a system that could be more strict than the military of the United States. But it's sort of like a prejudice that is unwarranted for the Quarians here, for her to say it like that. I say prejudice, I didn't mean a prejudice, I mean stereotype. It's a stereotype that is a little bit unwarranted, well, it's not a little bit, it's very unwarranted of the Quarians, specifically in the face of the fact that she lives in a strict society as a whole, and she's referring to the military as somehow more strict. Yeah, I don't know. It's just smacks of they forgot about their prejudices, about the writers. That they forgot that they were writing about an alien society and not about their own lives. I don't know.
Where was your mother in all this?
Mother was around, but she always seemed to kind of blend into the background. Almost like she was overshadowed by my father. He tends to do that to people. She passed on about 5 years ago. Some airborne virus that swept through the fleet. Happens sometimes when the filters start to break down. I think my father took it pretty hard. After she was gone, he became even more focused on his work. I think that was his way of dealing with the grief.
Sounds like a tough upbringing. You don't resent your father at all?
Like I said, it wasn't easy. My father's not the kind of person you bond with, and he wasn't around all that much. Too busy. People counted on him, and he took his duties seriously. Even when he was around, he always seemed a bit distant, like his mind was always somewhere else. Come to think of it, I can't ever remember seeing him smile. Not once. It's like he was always weighed down by all that responsibility. I mean, I know he cares about me, but he never really showed it, not in the usual way. I guess the best thing I can say about my father is that I respect him.
I want to talk about something else.
Like what?
Like not your parents, maybe. No, that's the thing.
I should go.
The question is,
See you later.
who did you grow up with? Who were your friends? Who were your, parent figures, sort of? Maybe you don't have that. Because that's another assumption that we make about human society, that we shouldn't make about alien society, is the family. As well, shouldn't even make it about humans, let alone about aliens. But certainly not, anyway. The family as being a focal point of society is or the typical, the nucleic family, I believe is the term, being a focal point of society is a very specific point in history of human history. And again, point as in time and space again. So where are we going? We need to go to a place that has a bunch of things on it. So this is not the place. I can never. This place is unnavigable, which is funny because it's literally a nave, a ship. Anyway, what do I want to do? I want to go to the Codex. I want to hear about.
After the Geths secure a location, Thresher Moths are subterranean carnivores that spend their entire lives eating or searching for something to eat. Threshers reproduce via spores that can lie dormant for millennia, yet are robust enough to survive prolonged periods in deep space and atmospheric re-entry. As a result, Thresher spores appear on many worlds, spread by previous generations of space travelers. The body of a Thresher never entirely leaves the ground. Only the head and tentacles erupt from the Earth to attack. In addition to physical attacks, Threshers have the ability to project toxic chemicals and emit bursts of infrasound as a shockwave weapon. The Alliance first encountered Threshers on the colony of Akuz in 2177. After contact was lost with the Pioneer team, Marine units were deployed to investigate. The shore parties were set upon by hungry Threshers, and nearly the entire assault force was killed. Alliance forces recommend engaging Threshers with vehicle-mounted heavy weapons.
Yes, that is how I did it.
Faster than light drive, Sovereign is the flagship of the rogue Spectre's Saren. An enormous dreadnought larger than any other ship in any known fleet, it is crewed with both Geth and Krogan. At 2 kilometers long, its spinal-mounted main gun is likely capable of penetrating another dreadnought's kinetic barriers with a single shot. How Saren acquired this incredible warship is unknown. The prevailing opinion is that Sovereign is a Geth construct, while others believe it is a Prothean relic. Its design, however, hints at a more alien and mysterious origin. The attack on Eden Prime demonstrated Sovereign's ability to generate mass effect fields powerful enough to land on a planetary surface. This implies it has a massive Element Zero core and the ability to generate staggering amounts of power.
I think the game is telling us here that this comes from the people that came before the Protheans. That's what it's saying here. It's also worth pointing out that it's either, well, it's not either, but it's like, oh, some believe it's a Geth construct. Others think it's a Prothean relic. But what do they know? It is a Geth relic. Ha ha ha, they never saw that coming.
Ship mobility dominates space combat. The primary objective is to align the mass accelerator along the bow with the opposing vessel's broadside. Battles typically play out as artillery duels, fought at ranges measured in thousands of kilometers, though assaults through defended mass relays often occur at knife fight ranges, as close as a few dozen kilometers. Most ship-to-ship engagements are skirmishes between patrol vessels of cruiser weight and below, with dreadnoughts and carriers only deployed in full-scale fleet actions. Battles in open space are short and often inconclusive, as the weaker opponent typically disengages. Once a ship enters FTL flight, the combat is effectively over. There are no sensors capable of tracking them or weapons capable of damaging them. The only way to guarantee an enemy will stand and fight is to attack a location they have a vested interest in, such as a settled world or a strategically important mass relay.
This is an important distinction here, that once the ship enters FTL, that means faster than light, then you can't hit them. Or track them even, but that assumes that they're traveling in the opposite direction of you. Of course, if they're traveling toward you, then you can see them coming. I mean, in the sense that you will see them on you. You won't basically, if something is traveling the speed of light toward you, you won't see them before they reach you, but you will see them when they reach you. So they will go through you, or they will start slowing down before they arrive at you, and then you'll see them before they're on you. The interesting thing here is, this is very much how space fights would occur. It's not very much like that. It's kind of complicated, because there's all sorts of theories and whatnot. But because the distance, this is like sniping in open space. It is literally that. It's not, you just have a sniper and you're completely in open space. So it's not about hiding in the traditional sense, hiding behind things or having superior firepower. Although having superior firepower is important, but having range is the most important thing. Having accuracy, being able to detect the enemy just through literal senses, and just because you're so far away from each other that it's difficult to detect unless you have like a big telescope and stuff like that. And that's when big ships would come in handy, because you'd be able to see things better rather than small ships that wouldn't be able to see things better. And of course, if you calculate, if you shoot at or near the speed of light, you probably wouldn't even need to shoot things very fast to shoot at an enemy. If this is assuming we're not using laser weapons, because laser is the speed of light. But if you shoot like a projectile at an enemy, they wouldn't see it coming. So unless they are looking out for you and establishing evasive maneuvers, if they're going at a certain speed, you just calculate the speed and triangulate and just, yep, I hit you and I killed you. And that's how it works in space. It is interesting that they use the word knife fight, because I don't think that is the term that is used in the Navy for close quarter combat. I believe that's called corvette. Is that something to do with corvette? Is it corvette or is it the other one that I never remember? Is it? I think I don't know actually. I think it's the other one. There's another type of ship that I don't know the name of. I forget the name of. That is specifically that comes from the term of fighting in close quarters. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know English well enough for that. I don't even know it in Portuguese. I only know it from English. We got the council races over here. The Asari culture. We have a lot of stuff over here. Okay, well, we have been learning about all this stuff, so I think we're at a point where we don't need to read about this too much. Unlike in the beginning of the game where we're sort of, getting introduced to the setting and all that sort of stuff. The Unification War. At about the time the Solarians and the Asari were forming the council, the Turians were embroidered in a bitter civil war. Oh, right. It's like a thing. Good for them that they unified, I suppose. Or maybe not good for them. So you have a beacon, and we have the cipher. Now, this is the important thing over here. The Prothean beacon downloaded its knowledge into, uploaded its knowledge into, because, it's like, you sound like an old person that doesn't know how the internet works. Uploaded its knowledge into the Lieutenant Commander Shepard on Eden Prime, causing confusing dreams and visions. While the imagery is becoming clearer with time, the meaning of the beacon communication remains elusive. It has been suggested that Prothean data recording is highly dependent on a certain point of view, what Carl Jung described as the collective unconscious. Shouldn't it be subconscious? Because if they're unconscious, then they're not conscious. It's like subconscious, I believe, would be the term. Anyway, the cipher, quote-unquote, needed to comprehend the images implanted in Shepard's mind in the cultural knowledge of a Prothean, the archetypes, biological instincts, the common experiences universal to the race. Since the Protheans have been dead for millennia, it may be impossible to acquire this cipher. This is the cipher that we acquired. Did we get that intro? Did we get that thing before? I think we must have. Anyway, we're out of time for the day, so we're going to continue clearing out the codex in the next episode. For right now, I'm Colonel RPG, and this has been Mass Effect. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and leave a comment, like the video if you want to see the next episode come out sooner rather than later, but above all, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.